Hi there and welcome to this very fun and chill course that shall be labeled The Magic of Art. So this video is for total beginners, and by that I mean if art was a game, then your level should be somewhere around here. And if you're saying, well, I didn't even draw anything, I just have the passion to start, so how am I already around level 5? And to that I would say, this passion that you have, or this motivation to start drawing, that is probably the most important thing that you can have. This is the heart of art, and we will discuss this a bit later on. However, for my level, I would say I'm around here. And that begs the question, if I'm around here and not at level 100, then why should you even listen to me? And to that I would say, because I'm still around this level, that means I still remember the start of my journey. And I still remember how frustrating it is to see all of those professional artists try to teach you a basic concept and you still not getting it. I still vividly remember people who are around this level and maybe even more trying to teach me basic stuff, and their sketch, something that they did very quickly without much detail or anything like that, that mess looked way better than something I spent hours doing. And that's what's frustrating about people who are already professionals trying to teach beginners. So that difference in level can be very demotivating for people who are just starting out. I promise you, you're not gonna have that issue with me. I am not that good. And just to let you know, I've been doing art for more than 10 years now. So this is a very slow progress. Later on, we will see my entire art journey and the reason behind why I'm still around this level instead of being at level 100. So now that we have both of our levels established right from the start, I want to stress the fact that I'm not going to be telling you what to do and ordering you to do things. I'm only going to guide you to reach from level 5 to around level 10 or 20. So this video will serve as a guide to give you that starting push in order to kickstart your art journey. And throughout it, we are going to understand that art is so magical if you actually have the love for it. And this is the amazing thing about art, is that it doesn't matter how old you are, how experienced you are, or where you come from, we can all appreciate art. So since we're going with this very medieval RPG theme for our art journey, I think it's very fitting to tell you that you are going to need some items before you start your journey. So let's say you have an inventory that you can fill with any type of skill. There are 3 items that I think you need to have, and since you're just a beginner, I think it's very important that you have them right from the start. So starting off with item number 1, it is a map to your path. In the art world, there are many paths that you can choose. You can conquer every single path, but the point I'm trying to make here is that you need to find your first path. And that needs to be something that really interests you and that you really want to pursue for a long time. Now this may be something like character art. This will lead you to draw original characters of your own or draw any fictional character that you see and like. Now with character art, there are some downsides or some hurdles that you might come across. For example, the most obvious one is that since you're drawing humans, you need to learn basic human anatomy. And unfortunately, it is not that easy to understand or grasp in a very short time. People take years to learn that. You can also do something like environment art. So if you feel like drawing cityscapes or fantasy lands in the wild, then maybe you should try out the path of environment art. The downside here is that you will need to learn perspective very early on. So for example, if you're drawing a city, you need to understand which angle you're drawing the city from. Which buildings are closer than others? Are you looking at the city from up above or from ground level? Another option you might want to try is drawing user interface for games or for applications or stuff like that. And this is why I'm telling you that you need to choose your path early on. Because if you do want the path of user interface design, then obviously the tools you need and the programs you're going to use are much more different than if you choose character art or even environment art. So there would be no use in you trying to understand anatomy or downloading programs that you're not even going to use for the thing you like. And I think choosing your path early on is very important, mainly because if you want to choose multiple paths at once, you cannot do them at the same time. So therefore, you're just messing up your brain for nothing, basically. And if you're still stuck on which path to choose, I would suggest going back to the media you enjoy. For example, most artists really enjoy anime and cartoons, and that is what leads them to start drawing their own characters and their own environments and fantasy worlds. And a very interesting analysis that you can see with most artists' old work, including mine, is that since we're so influenced by the media we consume, that also influences our art. So if you were to tell young me to draw you a character, it would probably look something like this, where the chin would be very pointy, with big and oval eyes. They also have a lot of whites in them for some reason. One line for the nose, and then 2 lines for the mouth, with their hair being very pointy and sharp, with something like a side ponytail, a very small neck, and very generic clothing. This is basically what everyone's starting art looked like, because we were so influenced by anime. So yeah, piece of advice, go back to the media you enjoy, see what really brings out that passion and that drive in you to start drawing. So let's put that item in your inventory since you have earned it. The second item would be your pace, and this goes hand in hand with the map of your path. So you can either focus on one topic at a time, or you can focus on all topics at the same time. And there's a very distinct difference in the results that you have. So the more consistent pace would be to focus on one topic at a time. So let's say number 1 here is human anatomy. Number 2 would be learning to draw hands. And number 3 would be to learning to draw hair. So if you were to focus on one topic at a time, that means you're going to give 100% of your focus to the first topic, and then move on to the second topic and give it 100% of your focus and your attention. Then moving on to the third topic, because you were able to focus on one single topic at a time, you are going to notice the skill development or your skill level increasing very quickly. Take that in comparison of trying to do all 3 skills at the same time. That means you're going to use 30% of your focus on the first topic, 30% of your focus on the second topic, and 30% on the third topic. The remaining 10 will be to switch between each single topic to the other. Now notice the difference in development between the two. This might seem a bit over-exaggerated, however, I just want to stress the fact that trying to multitask your skills in art is not going to work. And that is unfortunately the trap that I fell into, and that is why my art has been progressing very slowly, even though I've been doing it for over 10 years now. Because I kept focusing on multiple topics at a time, and splitting my focus and my time to all of them. So the pace I would recommend to you is this one, which is focusing on one topic at a time. Because not only will you get results very quickly, but it will also help you get your foundations right. If you already have those foundations set, then you don't really need to work that hard as time goes on. Whereas since I did this pace, which is all at once, the longer my art journey progresses, the more work I have to do, because I didn't set the foundations early on. So just try to find out which pace works best for your daily routine, so that you can progress, whether it's slowly or quickly. Progress is progress, okay? Yes, one is better than the other, but as long as you're still motivated to draw, and you still notice those tiny development in your art, then all is well. So once you have a pace set up, that means you can have it in your inventory for now. Now you have 2 items, which is pretty good. However, item number 3 is the most important one, and it's something that I've already talked to you about at the start. These days, art is everywhere. Whether you look on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, any platform, you are going to see someone's art. And of course, it's very nice to get that love from people and to share your art and get money from it and likes and follows and all of that good stuff. If that is the only motivation that you have to start your art journey, I promise you that is not enough. So I guess now my question to you is, will you love the process of art too, or just the result of it? Because no one is going to spend that much time with your art except yourself. If you actually want to develop your art skills and you want to get better at art, that means you are going to spend hours, if not days, with your art, trying to get it from a sketch to the base to the finished illustration. So will you love that process as well? Or are you just thinking about the result? This is what I want you to think about right now. Art is very slow, and it's a very painful but also loving process. You are going to get ups and downs. You are going to get art block, which means no matter how skilled you are, some days are just going to be bad days for your art, where you try to draw something you've been good at for years, and it just doesn't turn out great. You need to love your art, and you need to love the journey and the process, not just the result and not just the engagement. For example, for me, I share my art on my Instagram account and here on my YouTube channel. So I don't necessarily share it to get likes or engagement on that platform, but I share it because it's like a time capsule for me, where I can clearly see the development of my art. And sharing my art here on my YouTube channel is very fun for me because I like the process of making the videos and the speed paints and all of those stuff. The important thing here is that if you have the right motive, you can go anywhere in the art world. But if you have the wrong motive, then eventually that motive won't interest you anymore. That is why I want to ask this question to you. Because if you're not loving the process of doing an illustration and spending hours on it, then that means you've wasted those hours from your life. And you could have spent those hours doing something you actually enjoy. I'm only telling you this from the start because I don't want you to waste your time. So if you have the right motivation to start your art journey, then you're on the right track. Which means now you can have this item in your inventory as well. So if you have chosen the right path for you, you have chosen the right pace for you, and you have the right motivation in your heart, then you are good to go. So the very next step is to choose whether you want to try digital art or traditional art. Now I have experience in both sides, so I'm going to share that with you, and then you can try to figure out which one works best for you. Now, it doesn't really affect your progress or your skills if you try one or the other. However, the important thing here is to choose something that works well with your budget. So let's say you want to try out traditional art. Obviously, you can just pick up any piece of paper and a pencil from school, and then you can go on from there. But if you want to share your art online and have prints made of it, then you need something that is very good quality. And that unfortunately means you need to pay a lot of money for it. And it's a trap that we all fall for. And to drive the point across, I literally have a shelf full of traditional art supplies that I haven't touched for 7 years. The reason I bought them was because I thought you need these expensive materials to make good art. And then I transitioned to digital art and I never looked back. And the ironic thing is that even though I bought them, I didn't even use them at the time. Because I thought, I first need to get better and then I can use them. I don't want to waste them. However, again, what I would recommend is digital art. The amazing thing about digital art is that you can use pretty much any device to make art. Even the device that you're watching this video on right now. So you can use your phone, an iPad, or even a drawing tablet like the one I'm using right now, which is by Wacom. I've been using it since I bought it in 2022. And honestly, it's amazing. I found that my art has developed pretty significantly since I've transferred my art to drawing on my laptop instead of my phone. So to get you started with some programs, if you are using your iPhone or your iPad to draw, then you can use Autodesk Sketchbook, which is free by the way. It's amazing and I've used it ever since I started art till this day. Now if you are using your drawing tablet, you can choose Medibang or Krita. Those are the free programs that I would recommend to you. I'm currently using Medibang Paint Pro. Now, by the way, I don't know why it's called Pro, because it's free, so that's a bit confusing. But I think it's pretty great, and it works really well with my old laptop. So, if you have a low-end or an old laptop like me, then maybe you should try out Medibang first. And then if you think that your laptop can handle something a bit more demanding, then you can try out Krita. Now these are not the only 2 programs that you can use on your laptop. I'm only recommending the free ones that are actually good. Some programs out there either have a subscription or they're paid or something like that. So these are pretty good starters for you since you are just a beginner. If you think that you are ready to take that next step, then you can go ahead and purchase a paid program. I personally don't think I'm there yet, which is why I'm still using Medibang. But if I want to consider selling my artwork or starting commissions and stuff like that, then I would perhaps maybe try out Clip Studio Paint or Photoshop. But the most important thing in this section is to not waste your money. You need to sit down and have a real chat with yourself before considering buying like a drawing tablet or a paid art program or anything like that. Because I'm going to be honest with you, if your art isn't at that level yet, then it doesn't matter which tool you use. I told you a bit before that I purchased my first drawing tablet in 2022. So that means 7 years after I started my art journey. The reason for that is I didn't think that my art was good enough to buy something like that. I will stress this point again just to get it across. It doesn't matter what tools you use if your art isn't good enough. Now, when I say not good enough, I'm not trying to disrespect your art or your dedication or anything like that. Like I've said before, at some time, you have to be honest with yourself. You can't just say, oh, I'm gonna get better soon. I'm gonna get better in the future, so I might as well just buy the stuff right now. That will not work. You need to make sure that your skill set is good enough so that you can use those tools at their fullest potential. So that is a bit of tough love from my side. However, please take it respectfully because I'm not trying to bash anyone. I'm just trying to be honest with you so that you know what you're getting yourself into. This is the stuff that I wish someone had told me when I was younger. Because when I first started out, I wasted a lot of money on traditional art supplies that I literally haven't used in years. And it was only when I transferred to digital art that I have become a bit more responsible with my money. So for example, in the middle of my digital art journey, I was using my phone, and then I saved enough money to get my first drawing tablet. So really, the only investment I have made on the digital art side is my drawing tablet. Because I had my phone already, and I bought my iPad for college. I didn't really buy it just for drawing. There's also a paid program on iPad called Procreate that I have been contemplating buying for some time. So if you're thinking of getting something paid that is also good quality, I would recommend Procreate. I personally haven't tried it before, but all the artists that I follow on Instagram use it, so it must be good. I personally don't know, which is why I didn't include it at the start. And again, it's paid, and I don't really want you to spend money when you're just starting out. I think the best option is to go with a free program. I personally think that learning something new shouldn't cost you money. So if you agree with that, then maybe check out the programs that I have listed here. And if you're still thinking of something that you need to pay money for, then try Procreate. And the reason I haven't recommended anything on this side is because I have no clue what to recommend. I literally haven't touched my art supplies in years. So take a moment to figure out what your budget is and what you're willing to put on this side of your life. And with that done, you would have the necessary tools in your inventory. Now we're getting to the practical side of art, which is how you actually make an illustration. So here we have a blank canvas that we can literally do anything with. But where do we start? Well, there are 3 main steps to making an illustration. The first one is your sketch, and then your line art, and then your coloring and shading. So let's say I want to draw a cute bow right now. I would start off by making a sketch of it. So I'm just trying to figure out where I should place the lines in my drawing before I can actually start the line art process. So let's say I'm making it like this. And then I realize, I don't really like this side. I want to change it. Well, good thing this is just a sketch. I can do whatever I want with it. So I can change it just like that. Then I can go on with the other side. And let's say this line is too long. I can erase it and then move on. It's a very chill process because you don't really have that pressure on yourself, like when you're doing line art or shading. So here we have a very messy and obviously unfinished bow. This is just the sketch. So you can see overlapping lines here, and here you can see a lot of messed up lines where I drew something and I realized I don't really want it that way. I can just make another line and pretend the others don't exist. So let's say this is my sketch. It's done with a pencil brush and it's very carefree. When I go into the next step, which is the line art, I will simply go into another layer and make the opacity of the sketch layer very low. So the reason I'm lowering the opacity of the sketch is so that I can see the lines when I'm drawing my line art, but I still know where the lines of my sketches are. So if I were to draw the bow without looking at my sketch, I would eventually mess up. So this is the drawing that I made without looking at the sketch. If you bring the sketch back, you'll notice that the drawing over here is much smaller than this one, even though I intended it to be this size. And also, since the heart is on top of the bow, those two lines over here shouldn't be showing, except they are showing here. So now that I have my sketch back, I'm going to try the line art again using it. So I know that the heart is on top, so I'm going to draw it first. And then we go over here. Again, I'm not constrained by the sketch, but I'm still using it as a guide for me. So this is how they look in comparison. You'll notice that since I did this one without the sketch, the lines are much thicker because I'm putting more pressure on my tablet. I don't know where the lines are, so I'm just drawing from my imagination and I'm trying to be confident with my lines. But evidently, it doesn't work out. But the lines over here differ in their thickness, which shows that I'm in control of my line work and my line art. So you'll notice something over here or here, the lines are much thinner. And here we also don't have the problem with the two lines over here because I knew from the sketch that the heart was on top of the bow. Now moving on to the coloring process. This is probably the most fun if you like coloring books. You just have to color inside the lines and you're pretty much done with your base colors. The first step to shading is to figure out where your light source is. Where is the light hitting this item or this person or anything in your illustration? Let's say it's coming from this direction. So I would pick a color that is a bit darker than the original color here. And I have Protect Alpha on, so I can only draw inside the colors. Again, this is a perk of digital art that you will not have when you're drawing traditionally. So since the light is coming from this direction, so everything in here will not be in shadows. So instead, I'm going to just put it like this. And then everything in here would also be in shadow because it's away from the light source. And then I'm just gonna go back with the original color and fix some things that I don't like. So everything in here, like we said before, is going to be in light. So moving on to the heart, same thing. I'm just going to pick a bit of a darker color and then try to do the shading where I think the light wouldn't be hitting. So again, the light source is from here. So this area would be in light and this area would be in shadow. So our first step was the sketch, and then the second step was doing the line art. And then after that, we added the base colors and shaded them in accordingly. These are the simple steps to make a drawing of any kind. However, these aren't the only steps that you can take. You can pretty much do anything with your drawing. So I'm going to make something pretty similar to this using my own art style, and then we will see the difference between the two. So this is how I would draw that same bow in my own art style. The first key difference between the two is that the line art is colored instead of being all black like this one. So if I'm drawing something that is really edgy or has a lot of dark shades and black in it, then I would use the all black line art. However, if I'm drawing something very soft and aesthetically pleasing, then I would try and color each section with the appropriate color. Another difference is the way I shade my drawings. So in here, I use the same brush to do the line art and the coloring and shading. But over here, I use the same line art brush as this one. But when I started with the shading process, I used the watercolor brush over here. And then I added some sparkles because why not? Let's be honest, a sparkly bow would be much better than a normal bland looking bow. Also, one thing here you'll notice is that the line art looks a bit blurry. And that is simply because I duplicated the line art for the bow and then I added a Gaussian blur to it. I like the way it looks here instead of without the Gaussian blur. I think it gives it a very mystique feeling, if that even makes sense. So even though I used the same 3-step process for those two drawings, they still ended up looking completely different. And the reason for that is because I used the 3 steps here without going off track and trying and experimenting with stuff. However, when I did it with my own style, even though this Gaussian blur, for example, isn't really my style, I still experimented with it. And sometimes going off track is actually really good for your art. Because if you stick to a routine and you never change anything, you're not really going to improve that much. So now it's time for the embarrassing part of this video, which is me sharing my old art for you guys. So starting off with some art from 2016. Keep in mind that I was 13 years old when I made these, because oh my god, they are terrible. I literally cannot understand how these bodies work and how I drew them and thought, oh yeah, this is good, let me post it. Why did I think that? There was basically no shading, no definition to any of the clothing or the skin or the hair. I don't think I can name a single good thing about these drawings, which is kind of sad, but at the same time I don't really hate them because I knew that at the time I drew them because I loved drawing. I didn't really care if the anatomy was right or if their drawing looked good enough to post. I just had fun drawing it and I posted it on Instagram. That's it. That is how carefree my life was when I was 13 years old. I did not care about a single thing. And I'm sharing this one as a bonus because if you think back to the start of this video when I told you how anime has influenced my art, this is literally the prime example. Because look at this. A pointy chin, 2 lines for the mouth, 1 line for the nose, big oval eyes with a lot of whites in them, and then flowy hair that defies gravity. This is what I'm talking about. And weirdly enough, I don't really hate this drawing at all. I think it's very cute, and it's probably the best drawing that I made when I was 13. The ironic part is that it's literally less than half a body, so there's not much to make mistakes on. So the bar is very low. Moving onwards to 2019 with the worst background I think I have ever drawn in my entire life. Oh my god, this is terrible. And the poor girl doesn't even have enough room for her brain. Her head is just smushed in. Thankfully, the body anatomy has improved slightly in 3 years, which, oh my god. And I actually really like the concept of this drawing, but the execution is the problem, unfortunately. So this one from 2014, which is literally a screenshot of a screenshot. Like, just let that sink in first. But basically, I had a tradition to draw this exact same illustration every 2 years to see how much I've developed. Spoiler alert, it was not that good. Like, it was actually insane how much I didn't improve. And when I finished this 2020 version, I was actually in shock because I was like, oh my god, I suck at drawing. Like, this was an eye-opener, for sure. I couldn't believe how slowly my art was progressing throughout the years. And I think this was the turning point for me, because I realized that I really do need to take art seriously if I want to progress. And also, since it was 2020, which we all know how that year went on, but there was 1 week where I decided to just stop using my phone at all, which meant that, obviously, I need to stop drawing digitally. I still wanted to keep drawing, which is why I came back to traditional art. And it's so ironic that even though I had a lot of art supplies, literally the entire week I only used a pencil and my sketchbook, which actually should have been a sign to me that I don't like to color things. I just like to draw in black and white. And this was the first ever realistic drawing I ever made. I didn't use a reference for this one, and it kind of shows because let's be honest, there's a lot of mistakes here, but I'm actually really proud of it. And it made me realize two things. Number one, I suck at drawing realism. And number two, I really enjoy drawing realism. So that was a very interesting time. And then I also had a phase on that same week where I just drew hands. The only reference that I had was my hand, so I just made poses and I drew them. And I actually really like this one. It's a continuation of a drawing that I did a few years before this one, but I really like the contrast between the very dark lines and the sharp nails and the rest of the drawing, which again should have been a sign that I really enjoyed drawing in black and white. But I only ever really started drawing grayscale in 2022. So these two drawings were made in 2021, I believe, at the very end of it. And during this year I had just started college, so I didn't really have much time to do art or to focus on it. But I still drew these on my phone and I really enjoyed the process. And on a random day in 2022, I just decided to make a grayscale illustration. I was just messing around with a pencil brush, and then I was like, wait a second, this is kind of good. In hindsight, it wasn't that good, but again, the bar is very low for me. But I really enjoyed making it, and I realized that maybe this is what's meant for me. Maybe this is my path. And so, moving forward with that grayscale plan in my mind, I made this illustration in 2024. It's by far my favorite illustration I've ever made. I really like all the details in it, and I also shared the entire speed paint of this on my YouTube channel here. And it's crazy to look at the difference between my first grayscale illustration and this one, because there's only a 2-year difference between these two illustrations. But when you look back at my older art, I spent years without that much progress. And also here's a comparison between my first ever illustration on my tablet and my most recent one. This is, I think, the biggest influence on my art and the reason why my art has progressed so much. So I'm very happy that I saved up money for that drawing tablet, because I have no idea how my art would look like if I didn't buy it. Anyways, I think I've talked way too much this entire video, so thank you for watching, and I really do hope you learned something from this video. I had so much fun making it and drawing all the assets for it, and I know that I'm not really qualified enough to make a video like this, but I think it's good to share what you know and to help other people. So, thank you for watching and say hellish!